Hi everybody, I'm a Dangerous Mix. Let's talk about Mickey 17, which was directed by Bong Joon-ho and stars Robert Pattinson, Steve Yeun, Naomi Ackie, Mark Ruffalo, and Toni Collette. Mickey 17 is a movie about a desperate man taking on a job where if he dies, he can be reprinted, which tends to be pretty useful for a group of people that are trying to recolonize a new planet and they need to test certain things out to see if it would kill them. I really loved what I saw in the trailer for this movie, and it got me very excited, especially after finding out that Bong Joon-ho was involved, director of The Host, Parasite, and I even liked Snowpiercer. And this movie was one of the ones that made my most anticipated list, and it has a great concept overall. This movie is good. It's based off a novel, and it does give it a little bit of an original feel when comparing it to other reboots, ripoffs, regurgitations that we've been getting from Hollywood. The story is a little different than what I was expecting based on what I saw in the trailer, and there are definitely some good and bad things that came from that. Robert Pattinson was very good in this movie. I definitely think this is one of his best performances I've seen. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette, they play their parts very well, whether you like the characters or not. And another thing that I think is overall good is that this movie feels like it is the director's vision put out in front of you and not something that was heavily influenced by producers or anyone else. But it definitely is a lot more political than I expected it to be. It did kind of feel like I was being beaten over the head with politics. Generally, I'm not a person who likes politics, so having that in my movie kind of just pulls me out of it usually, and this movie definitely did that. There is some great alien design in this, and there's just a lot of cool elements that I really feel there could have been a better movie out of this than what we got. Not to say that this isn't good. It's just not great. And there are definitely some problems with it. So I really want to recommend this movie. There are some lulls throughout it and things that kind of feel unnecessary, but it has that original feel to it. And I want movies like this to do well when they're great. But this one in particular, I feel like it's going to be polarizing. And I kind of go back and forth myself on whether or not I feel people should go and see it or not. And just based off that, I think I'm just going to give this a rating of stream it. I think it's worth seeing. I don't know if I would recommend you go to the theater to see it, even though there are some great cinematography shots in this and things like that I think work really well. But I'm on the fence. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. It's definitely a little bit too political and not as funny as I thought it would be. Alright, so it's now time to talk spoilers. As I said, I was expecting something a little different here, and that's mostly around Mickey's dying. I was kind of expecting to see that played up a little bit more, maybe drawn out a bit more, maybe a little bit more creativity with them dying. Um, I understand the direction they went with it and kind of settling on Mickey 17 and 18 kind of being the thing. So it works, it's a direction, but it's definitely not what I was hoping for. I really appreciate the way Pattinson played the two different Mickeys, and it kind of makes sense to me that 18 would have that anger, frustration at seeing Mickey 17 and maybe thinking of him as, you know, weaker, pathetic, and not as strong-willed to get things changed, and he's kind of taking it upon himself to get things to change. So I really appreciate just overall how he represented the two characters. His Mickey 17 voice didn't annoy me too much, so it kind of just worked for me. Another thing I mentioned, like the alien design in this, I thought was super interesting, like especially when they are first coming out and it's like, okay, what are these things? But they ended up being a lot more than just your typical alien type things, and I appreciated that. So they kind of grew on me, and I ended up thinking they were kind of adorable towards the end. Now, one of the things with the aliens I thought was kind of interesting, like generally they seem peaceful and helpful. They got, Mickey out of the like ice pit and up into safety to get him back to his people. But you did have the one case where the Marshall character was cutting into that rock and there was some in there. It definitely looked like that little guy started to attack him. So people coming in and shooting him after that kind of makes sense. I mean, maybe it was misunderstood that he was just trying to give him a hug, but yeah, that was definitely something that is understandably why he was shot. So this movie also, as I said, gets very political. It talks about like, people being scared of death, society, the hierarchies, um, love, cloning policies, governments, and their influence on things, and how they expect people to behave. And you know, you're expendable. You don't mean so do what I say and don't even question it. Like, there's all that stuff worked in there, and overall, I just it didn't sit well with me. And this movie, I was expecting something like I knew it was gonna be a dark comedy, but it was not funny to me in most cases. I mean, you have Ruffalo playing this nonsense politician, and his followers wear red hats. Like that kind of begs the question: and like, did this movie expect the Orange Popsicle Man to win or not? Overall, Ruffalo and Colette play their parts. Like I think they do very well with them, like I mentioned earlier. But I hate these characters, and I understand why they're there. So that's kind of the thing that's meant to be there, and it kind of probably annoy you, but I just hate how up in my face it is, and I just didn't like it. I did not one bit like that. And one last thing, like I just thought was kind of a little funny that, unexpected discussion about sex positions kind of comes back and helps save the day in a way. So that's kind of handy, I guess. So yeah, I don't really have too much else about Mickey 17. As I said, I'm on the fence on whether or not I actually recommend it. Eventually, once it's out, I definitely recommend it, at least for streaming purposes. But it's really up to you if you want to go out and see it in theaters. I do feel there are some benefits to it, but overall, it's very polarizing to me. I don't know if I really want to see it again, but I probably will. So, those are my thoughts on Mickey 17. Do you plan on giving the movie a chance? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one, and bye for now.